Hello and welcome to another IB Mathematical Studies video. Today we're going to start with statistics, and I think statistics are actually a very exciting part of this course because they're actually very interesting, and a lot of the idea of mathematical studies is based on statistics and the fact that you're going to be using this a lot in real life. So it's not so much about learning mathematics themselves, but about learning how to use mathematics in real life and why they're so important, and basically become much more able people. So not only you should study statistics because of your grade, as you can see in this graph, the part that corresponds to us of statistical applications is actually this one here, statistical applications, and this one here, descriptive statistics, and arguably a little part of this one here. So it's quite a big portion of the cheese. Let's say that if you don't know anything about statistics or you don't understand anything about statistics, your chances of doing well in the IB Mathematical Studies course are much lower. But there are better reasons to study statistics. Firstly, stats really are everywhere. And every time you hear anything like this, like playing video games is bad for you, or people who use Facebook have less friends, or women make less money than men in the same job, all of these are statistical statements. They're supposed to be based on data, and if they're not based on data, then you should not believe them. So you should have the criteria to figure out whether a statement of this kind is just somebody pulling it out of their hats and just coming up with complete whatever and trying to sell you an idea, something they believe in, but it's not based on actual data. And statistics is going to allow you to figure out whether the data is actually reliable or not. So that's one very good reason why you should study statistics. Secondly, and this is something that's very real, statistics really are the future. It's a very different world than it was, say, 50 years ago. Think about your typical Rockefeller back in the day. The man who made a lot of money and became very successful and created a huge company. They made their decisions out of instinct. They had a gut feeling that could figure out, well, you know, the future is going to be in railroads. I'm going to start building railroads. But that does not work anymore. Nowadays, the CEO today, they base all their decisions upon statistical data. If you want to do marketing, if you want to have any kind of company, you're going to need to have to be able to crunch a lot of data and figure out what it actually means, and therefore make decisions. That's what the successful CEO today does. They do statistics. So really, statistics are important. So what are we going to study actually? Well, the most important things we're going to study is to really understand data. And data can be misleading. Look at all this list of numbers here. There's 3 lists of numbers, 1, 2, and 3. This could be IB grades. Imagine a class where 5 people get a 1 and 7 people get a 7. What does that tell you about the class? Was it the teacher paying equal attention to everybody? And look about this one here. Or this one here. Well, all of these have the same average. And well, you can see that, you know, if they have exactly the same average, but they are very different in data. When you hear the average of grade in this class was blah, 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 you have to be careful. What does that actually mean? You have to learn how to look for the right measures. And they have different types of measures. We have measures of central tendency and we have measures of dispersion. And these we're going to have to learn on what they mean and how to use them and what they tell us. And that's going to be very useful because every time you're reading a newspaper, the average money made by these kind of people is whatever, you can figure out, okay, how truthful is this to the actual situation? And they will come up with like dispersion measures such as the standard deviation. And to know what they mean is going to be important. Also, you have to learn how to deal with graphs, and graphs are going to be a very important part of this course because you know what? Graphs are already everywhere in newspapers, in magazines, in all sorts of investigations and research papers. You're going to be looking at graphs all the time, and you have no idea how often these graphs are not well represented. Just take a quick look. Take a quick look at this one. This is IB's course for 4 students, and think of it. How do you think Thomas and Nadine did? It doesn't look like they did very well, right? Well, actually, they got a 4. There's a little 4 here, hiding. So this can be very misleading, right? Because you look at this and it seems that they did pretty poorly, and they actually got a 4, which is okay. It's not the best, but it's decent. And just because we start with the axis in 3, people can be confused, and this is one way in which data can be misleading. And people sometimes do even do this on purpose, which is kind of appalling, but that's the world we're living in. And so what we're actually going to learn is how it's properly made. This is a histogram, and this is a very good representation of how data should be represented. You can see we start at 0, we have everything going up clearly. We don't use funny colors to make things seem more important when they're just equally. So it's a very fair representation. And we're going to learn how to do this kind of graph, because that's the kind of graph that the IB wants you to learn. It wants to do proper graphs. It wants to show information properly. They're not biased. They're not trying to sell something to you. They're not trying to manipulate the data. This is the right way, and that's what you're going to have to prove that you know how to do. And what's the whole point of this? Why is this so important for you? You know, like if you want to change the world and make the world a better place, think about it. What's going to be more convincing for the authorities? I'm not talking about the advert you put on television for people to give money to the third world, where you show like children in a bad situation. I'm talking about convincing the authorities, convincing the people who have the money in their hands, and they need very good reasons to give you the money, not to someone else. Statistics is the way in which you convince people nowadays, and more so. It's not going to be anymore your typical advertisement where you show a few happy people drinking soda. This is going to be more about data and actually proving to people that you have reliable information backing your ideas. And if you have a business idea and you want to like create a Facebook app or a website or any kind of thing that you might think that you want to create, any product, and you want to convince investors or people who are going to give you the money to go ahead with the idea, you're going to need statistics too. So if you don't have statistics, it's going to be much harder to make the world a better place in the way that you think, or to start your own business. Knowing statistics is going to be a big help in this front. So I really think this is an important subject, and you really should be interested in statistics. It's very important. I can't stress enough how important statistics is going to be in your life. This is an opportunity to get a good start, and it's also going to help your grade big time. But really, this is about real life. This is going to be helpful. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.